going to talk about a little film that has won many awards, and it's called Did You Remember the Cat? And today we have, with that film, we have not Daniel Porter, we have Daniel Foster. Dan, is it Dan okay?
Dan's fine.
Okay. And with him, we also have Autumn Olson. Very unusual name, and I shall remember that one. Uh, Welcome, guys. Welcome to the craziness that is the antisocial hour-ish, horror-ish show. I just finished watching your film for the third time this morning to remind myself, what did I miss anything? Because this thing, you can miss a lot of stuff. But we're not going to talk about that yet. I don't give spoilers and I don't tell the story of your film. That's your job. But I want to hear a little bit about you guys and what you do and where you started and what the hell you're doing on my show.
Yeah, would you like to start, Autumn?
Yeah, I mean, I think a fun place to start would be probably how and where we met, Dan, because we both met, we work kind of, in LA. We met at an
Oh my God,
animation
you totally work in
studio.
LA?
We do.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's how we met, is we both live in LA. We both were working at an animation
Oh,
studio
which one?
and
Which one?
Skydance Animation.
I am an animator, you see.
Oh my
Now
gosh.
that's MFA. Here I am. I'm always impressed by anybody who works animation. I was wondering why your storyboards were so freaking awesome.
Oh yeah, we had so many people who helped us on this project. We met through the studio connection. Like we
Were you
just
both
have
working there? You're just kind of hanging out? One of you
Yeah,
guys was working across the street at Starbucks or anything?
we hit it off because we were both big nerds and stuff. But Autumn was running a Monster of the Week campaign, which is D&D but Buffy sort of
These
thing.
are made for
Um,
my show. Oh my God.
yeah. Yeah, so but we were already good friends before that because we were both in a shorts program run by Skydance. So we were both the
Nice.
finalists in the program, and we bonded over the process of working in there and the mutual respect that we had as creators with each other. And then it all led to Monster of the Week, where I had the initial idea for Did You Remember the Cat, but I only ever knew what the opening was,
Mhm.
where couple escapes house, TBD on what happened in the house, but we would see a cat and they would have to go back. But through Autumn, in her Monster of the Week campaign, she came up with this really terrifying monster called the Choir, that Autumn can speak more to. But it was like love at first sight, her describing this monster, and I was like, oh my God, like this is so much my vibe and everything. And we started having conversations of, well, what if we put the choir into this movie and it kind of fit like a glove because then we found all the thematic undertones that
Everything just kind of flowed and growed. It's
exactly.
awesome.
So it was
It's
a
basically Home Alone cat style, except scary as shit.
exactly. So yeah, Autumn, do you want to add anything? So
Yeah, I mean, like Dan was saying, we kind of had this Monster of the Week campaign. It was a ton of fun, and I mean,
How does the Monster of the Week campaign start? Do you guys draw pictures? You just talk about it, or how does that work?
yeah, it's literally it's just D&D, but with much easier rules. So instead of like D20, it's just two
So you don't roll
D6s.
and say, "Oh, you've got bunny ears."
Yeah, it's definitely again like what Dan was saying. It's a lot more like Buffy or like if you've seen the show Supernatural. Very Monster of the Week.
I hear that Supernatural show might take off. I don't know.
I know, I don't know if
it's
it'll
really
get past
short.
season one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into the third or fourth episode. I don't
Who
know.
knows? Yeah. But yeah, and so we Dan had pitched this like kind of that the did you remember the cat concept opening to me like quite some time before. I have no idea how long before, but we were like, that's a really cool idea. But we talked about it a little bit and could never quite crack it. And then months later, we were playing this campaign and I had built this monster, the choir, and its entire purpose was basically to cause miscommunications between this team of monster hunters trying to kill it.
And there's
And
music.
Yeah. The intense choral singing. But yeah, I mean, and then at some point me and Dan kind of were sidebarring about it and discussed like, hey, this story, Did You Remember the Cat, is ultimately a story about a couple who can't communicate, and this choir
I know
monster
nothing
that
about that.
which yeah, I know is not a really common thing
Yeah,
people
yeah.
have to deal with, but
No.
you
Men
know,
and women are just like, always. Women and women just like, always. Men and men, perfect.
it's a very niche problem.
Yeah, I figured.
But yeah, so like we were just like, hey, here's the monster that fits thematically. Here's the theme of this movie, and it just, like Dan said, like just kind of worked out from there. Very much wrote itself, I feel.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Well, let's go back farther. Farther. Way back to childhood, if you must. Let's All right. So tell me a little bit where you guys grew up and how you decided to get into the arts of filmmaking or animation or D&D or all of the above, because I also have that background where I started off and I was 11. I think I got dragged out of summer camp to see Star Wars.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and then I learned about special effects, and that was the end of me. So, so tell me a little bit about you guys. Tell me about your backgrounds and what interested you about the arts of the film, as the Irish
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Dan, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, growing up, my mom would take me to the movies every week.
And now
So
you're LA based, born and
grew up in Philadelphia.
oh
So
my God, okay,
so
LA
my
East
mom,
Coast stuff.
yeah, yeah, and my mom, like, she's a huge cinephile and such. So whenever we had money, she would take me to the movies like every week. It was our tradition for
Rocks.
the 21 years that I was living at home before moving out here. So every week we would go and see something, or we would watch something at home. So there was a lot of movies growing up that we just had on VHS because we didn't have cable. So I would just rewatch so many oddball sort of 90s sci-fi or 90s horror, and
So
that
like
was
creature double features and things like that.
exactly. And those like really connected with me. I can't tell you how many times I watched things like Galaxy Quest or
Yes.
like
Galactic Quest.
Antonio
Yes, I know nothing about that either.
Banderas like 13th Warrior I'd watched like 100 times. I'm a huge fan of Ridley Scott, so Alien was always on repeat. So I
A little
grew
bit of
up.
Simon Pegg fan too, I see.
Oh yeah, always. So
I
it,
have a Shaun of the Dead doll in my office sitting
oh,
over
I
my.
want to see it
Oh my
later.
gosh, yeah, we got to see that.
I'll show you that when we get off the. I'll just grab that. But yeah, it's quite. Has a little red spot right over there.
Yeah. So there's just so many films that really connected with me and molded like who I was as a person. And I'll never forget watching Alien for the first time, and when the first time that you see the chest burster scene, I remember my mom like covered her eyes like but I had this huge grin on my face of how did they film that? Like how did they do that? And
Excellent.
it's ironic because I can't do blood in real life, but I love the most gory movies out there because I was able to separate it from the craft, you know. So
Well, this
I
is why you did not become a nurse or a doctor. See,
like my parents wanted me to. So
that's so cool. I can remember. I think Saturday Night Live did a whole spoof of that scene where the thing comes out. Hello, my baby. Oh no, it was a movie. What
Oh,
was
that's Spaceballs.
Spaceballs? Thank you. I was wondering as Mel Brooks. Hello, my baby. Yeah, that movie was great. And I just thought that scene immediately hit my head. Oh, I worked in Alien 3
Oh,
really?
that's cool.
with
That's
David Fincher. So, I kicked ass. So I only mentioned that like every fourth episode of this show. So
I need to
that
go.
also apparently is going to be a drinking game. So when you were younger, did you have like I know like you sound like you're from an East Coast family that doesn't have a lot of cash, and you got to work for what you get. Did you draw a lot, like storyboard ideas, or do comic books, or what did you do to kind of formulate the visions of what you wanted to see?
There there was always I always felt like I wanted to direct, and growing up I would do like little short films with friends and such,
Mhm.
but it was always I would do it with like action figures or
It's like
I'm a
Robot Chicken style.
exactly of like here's how I envision it, here's what I want to see for it. And for me I lead with examples. So if I am really inspired by a film, I'll sit down whoever I want to get excited about it and go, here's the movie that inspired me, here's the tone that I want, here's the style, that I want from it. And then we usually piggyback off of that and figure out exactly how we want to shoot it, how we want to write it and stuff. But Sam Raimi and Edgar Wright and so many other filmmakers were a huge inspiration for me because I love wink at the camera campiness. I really enjoy that tone. So
Couldn't
any
tell from your film at all.
no, no, oh yeah, this one's such a drama, it's such a serious film,
Yeah, it's
but
very serious.
yeah, but I've always just been obsessed with crowd experiences, the moments when you're in a theater and everyone's like cheering or gasping or anything. So that's always been the goal is to have a good crowd engaged like with the film. So
Did
that's
you
what I always want.
did you go to film school then, or did you just decide to go for it?
I went to film school, Temple University,
Good school.
is in directing, and I used that expensive film degree to become a butcher after college for 2 years, saving up
So
money.
did my dad. So right.
And no shame to it. It was a great job and stuff, but it was it wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I used the money that I saved up, chopping up meat, to move out here and start producing films when I could.
So,
So
so when you first see your first film, and don't worry, Autumn, I'm getting to you. When you first, right there, right there. When you first see your first film, what was your first response? Like even in student films, like
yeah.
just watching other people watching your stuff.
So my first film's funny because it was for my senior project in high school. So it was my senior year. I went to Springfield Township High School, home of the Spartans. But so for my senior project, I set very ambitious goals of I wanted to make a film, I wanted to have a premiere, and I wanted to market it. So I made a film that was 15 minutes, which was crazy to do as like your first film.
Right?
We marketed it, so we had to make a trailer and we would put it on the morning announcements. And then I had to have a premiere. And when making it and watching it recently, so many continuity errors. It's ridiculous. The writing is like an
Like a high school kids?
yeah, and
Go
it's like
figure.
a weird like cop procedural, but it was called Hall Monitors. So it was about hall monitors investigating a art room break-in, and it's like this whole conspiracy, and it was like a really goofy tone to it. So the day of the premiere, I was having a panic attack. I was like in and out of the bathroom, just stressed out, just trying not to um lose my lunch like all the time. And then I thought like maybe 5 people, maybe like my close friends would show up for the premiere, but it was a line wrapped around the whole like hallway, and that was before you even get into the room because the whole room was completely full
Oh,
of
it's so
and,
cool.
and it felt like I know it's a wonderful life when everyone's just like coming in to the
Here,
room.
we got this for you.
Yeah, and I was so overwhelmed. And then we played the movie, and like people were cracking up at things that I didn't mean for them to crack up, but I was like, yep, that was the intention, that was the goal. But that really did something for me and made me feel like, oh, okay, I think I can do this. I
Yeah,
think
you stepped through the right door for
yeah,
sure.
that was a life-changing moment that really yeah, that I cherish, honestly.
That's so cool. I got goosebumps for you. Look at that. I got, I don't know if you
Aw.
can see, I actually got goosebumps for you. That's so cool. You made the old broad get bumps. That's a trick at my age. So, Autumn,
So
Yeah.
you are a writer.
Yeah.
Have you always been a writer, or are you a visual writer?
Oh, how do you mean? Like,
Like, do you write with the pictures of what you want to say in your head, like storyboard artists do and comic book artists do? Or are you more of the, I can feel what this person is thinking. I want to explain this to people.
I think it weirdly enough, I know this is I'm the secret third option where I feel as though I'm a very auditory writer. I grew up I feel like this is if you watch a lot of like BBC or yeah, I feel like a lot of British movies and TV shows and whatnot. I feel like they're a lot more like there's just I feel like a more based in dialogue than visuals, whereas you watch in a lot of American films, it feels more based in visuals than dialogue typically.
Sure. And the
And
wit's a little
so,
different too, because you're thinking
yeah, for
through the
sure.
side eye than you are to
And like you said, with like making this film, it's so Edgar Wright inspired, and I love it. I love that guy. And so when I typically am writing, I very much almost let the dialogue lead in my head a little bit.
sure.
And then, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, so long as the emotion's working, that takes precedent over anything else. Is you got to sacrifice visuals, and dialogue is all sacrificed on the pyre for the sake of emotional manipulation.
I'm
Not
going to
manipulation.
bring this out of them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what you do. Yeah.
So when you were a little kid, I said, I'm cheaper than therapy. When you were a child,
Go on.
um, were you one of these kids that took the paper, folded it in half, and wrote the stories inside like I was, or were you one of these kids that were like, because I started out as a writer too. Were you one of these kids that would like tell people stories, or did you have a third option?
You definitely both those two things. I mean, like I was very much a like improv theater kid growing up, and so I think that was, I mean, in some ways, like it's the gateway drug to
Yeah,
writing.
yeah, Second City
And
too.
other
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And so with that, I think was a really good introduction to just basic storytelling. And I was always the kid growing up where it was like, oh, everyone's gathered around a campfire and like, oh, I got a spooky story, or like I have a really annoying joke that will take 20 minutes of your time and you'll all be upset by the end of it. I had a lot of like really mean jokes like that. That was really more about wasting people's time than it was
Aren't you glad
about
you say
it was like
banana?
yeah, oh yeah, like it was I had this one joke that was like could be stretched out for 20 minutes long, and the whole joke was knowing that I was basically like getting you really engaged to waste your time, and
Nice.
then I would laugh and everyone else would be mad, and then like the next time we'd have that party everyone would be like, oh my god, you have to tell that joke was so funny.
Because
And
they're
so it
all
would like yeah, and so like everyone who was there last time who knew how pointless this joke was like sitting there laughing because they were waiting to see how angry the other people would be. And it was like it got to the point in high school where I'd be telling this joke, and like by the last time I told it, it was like 50 kids around a single campfire. And it was just like I remember sitting there telling it, and I was like, oh, my last joke of high school, like I'm gonna break so many hearts. It was yeah, I've been chasing that high ever since in terms of storytelling.
That's classic. It's like the aristocrats, except not punchline.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. I can totally relate to all of those things. You just in so many, because there's an old line that I think it was Dennis Miller. Anyway, one of the comics I used to work with used to say, "Yeah, sometimes I only write the show for myself."
Oh, absolutely. You have
Totally
to
get
a
that.
little bit.
Yeah. So you guys meet in this animation world. Did you also go to film school or writing, or were you at Emerson? Or
Yeah, I did a double major of actually history and film. So sorry, that's traffic. I went to Fitchburg State University, which had an awesome film program, awesome history program. Still in touch with a lot of the professors
do
there,
they
and
still have the frisbee class there?
the frisbee class.
They used to have frisbee class there.
Oh, I don't know. There was a Quidditch team. I know that.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I don't know any of the other sports that were at that campus, but um, yeah. So a lot of I like there was just a really great network of Fitchburg kids out in LA, which is how I kind of got my start out here was through the Fitchburg internship program, and then also through just like reaching out to other Fitchburg kids while I was out here and being like, hey, what are you up to? I'm interested to learn about what you do. And that's actually how I ended up getting a job at the animation studio, was kind of through
Gotta
that.
know people. You gotta know
Yeah,
people. Don't shit where you eat.
it really
Don't
is.
be an asshole, and you gotta know people.
It's a matter of like, I think so many people out here, and just like in general, regardless of industry, have just such interesting jobs that you don't know much about. And it's fun to, I think people use the word networking a lot, where it's like you got to network. And I'm not sure I love that term, because I think it's like, no, man, like people are willing to get coffee with you. It's
Yeah.
just fun to pick their brain about stuff. And
It's
like,
not schmoozing, it's not
yeah,
boozing, it's more like not using. Kind of
yeah.
confusing.
Yeah, it's like the, don't go in like expecting a thing out of it. Just go in expecting to meet a human and like have a good time learning from them.
When I met everybody in San Francisco, by the way, where your head is behind, or in front of, Dan, everybody I know of that was from back east, I had to ask them first, did you have fried clams with bellies growing up, or do you know what a blue crab is? And if they knew neither one of those things, I knew they were not from the East Coast. So
Those are pretty integral parts of the experience. Yeah.
yeah. And of course, Philly cheesesteak. Which one? You got to answer. Which of the cheesesteak places do you like?
I mean, I love Pat's.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, Pat's and Geno's
Yeah,
are
those are the two that everybody talks about. Always, that's why I used to love Always Sunny, because you just go, the best place to eat cheesesteak is your mom's house, because they always make it the best. So.
No, my mom's cheesesteaks. Sorry, mom. They're
Oh no.
they're not good.
Steakums and American. Yep.
I have to be honest with her. So
So you guys are so funny. I'm loving the fact that you got the same vibe as I did growing up, which means that the age gap between my generation and I'm 1964, and you guys, born when there were still, trees on the planet. Hope that lasts.
Yeah.
There really is that much difference, because we're both kind of these nerdy experienced kids that are the out, you're not all in the main drive of things mostly, right?
yeah,
Kind of the outcasty kids, I'm guessing.
big
But
time.
now
Yeah.
D&D is like mainstream, and you got the D&D stage shows coming to LA from 20 Sided Tavern, and just Baldur's Gate and all this other stuff. So you guys are in that animation room. I'm guessing, were you drawing or were you writing or?
Yeah. So we were working mostly in the production side of things, but because of the talent that we had creatively, we were able to pitch short films to the studio. So that was where we really hit it off of, being in the trenches, trying to get our shorts made and giving each other notes on each other's projects. And yeah, just really, I had never had that before, sort of a creative partner. Even though it was a different project, it still felt like, oh, there's a possibility that one day we'll be able to work together on something
That's so
exciting.
cool.
So ultimately it led us to Did You Remember the Cat? And yeah, it definitely turned out as great as we had hoped. So
So I'm going to talk a little bit about your film. There's Tara and Mitch are the
Mhm.
main two. And Mitch looks a little like my husband. If he was completely bald, he would look exactly like my husband. Um, so I saw a lot of my husband in Mitch, and I'm sure a lot of other gals are going to see, or guys are going to see their husband in Mitch. But having him sing was one of my favorite parts, and I'm not giving anything away. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole film is that everybody who has a dog or a cat knows that you have a dog or a cat song. You don't. So how many pets do you guys have?
I have one cat who's a demon, but Autumn, who came up with the song part of it. You can speak more to it, Autumn.
Yeah, I have a little man myself. The song is Littlest Man, if you're not familiar with the song. I now sing that song to my cat constantly too. Like uh but yeah, we have two cats in my household. I live with my sister, so she has her own cat, I have my own cat, and they hate each other. But I love
Oh
them.
no.
I love them both. But yeah, like you said, it's just such a universal thing to have is like a very specific song for your cat. And like I know some of the jokes in the film is that it's her song, she sings to the cat, and now he has to
If
sing
you were
that song
paying
to the
attention to
cat.
me.
Yeah, yeah, so it's like just a fun little comedic exchange with the two.
I was going to ask if this was a proof of concept for something larger.
Yeah, we had started developing a feature version. So we wrote a script and a pitch for a longer version of it that kind of takes the beats of the short and just goes a lot bigger with it. And that was also the biggest challenge was this film is kind of act four to a horror film that we've already seen before. So how do you make that into a whole movie, where you are kind of the movie's already happened, but this is almost a sequel to that movie that already
Yeah, this
happened.
is the after party of the
Exactly.
party.
So writing that was, and Autumn can of course speak to it too. It was a huge challenge and a lot of writing and rewriting. And with the current draft, we're kind of just waiting to see how far we go with the short, and hopefully there's going to be people interested in having those discussions when it.
You've already got awards. You've
Yeah.
already got
It's true.
awards.
Yeah, it's a tough time in the industry, but there's, I think no matter what, there's always going to be people that see a horror movie trailer, they see a pet in that trailer, and they're like, this pet better survive the
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. Don't kill the dog. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah,
That is
people don't even house fires in real life. It's like a house fire. Oh, that's sad. It's horrible. But can't believe that kid's out of home. I don't know what they're gonna do. Oh, the dog died. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
that's universal. So I that bodes well for the concept because people are always going to say that. But yeah, it's the reality of the film industry. It's just it's hard to get a movie off the ground until you get those really really big accolades and stuff. So fingers
And
crossed.
we've talked to some people on the show where they've sold these amazing scripts and then nothing happens because a studio bought them. Are you going to stay indie, you think, or do you want to have a studio kind of swoop in and go, "We're A24, we'll take care of you"? I mean,
I think if it would depend on the studio for sure, but I feel like the idea of Autumn and me being able to take the next leap in our careers and be able to see a project through down the indie route or whatever it be, that would just be the best opportunity.
that would be very
Um,
awesome.
but I would hope any studio that would hopefully take it would see that it can't just be marketed as a horror film and it needs to be also marketed as a comedy.
Yeah.
And humor of, hey, would like I want couples seeing the trailer to argue of like, we're not going back for our dog or we're not going back for our cat. Like there needs
Oh
to be,
no, the bird's gonna die. Yeah, that
yeah,
bird is gonna die. That's it.
there needs to be that interactivity with the audience because that's what sells the film. So that to me is the easiest selling point is if the audience gets a reaction of talking about that and seeing it, then that'll make them want to go see the movie.
I just love the fact that you're combining, especially in this environment that we live in, the crazy world where it's a horror show just by opening the front door. You know, you know, the worst horror movie in the entire universe is going on right now.
Yeah.
Um, but having people that can view little tinges of comedy and drag it in there and sew it into the crazy, I think that is such a genius and well needed move. And I am so grateful that you guys are doing that. Do you have other projects that you're working on, or is this kind of your main drive right now?
Yeah, you want to go first on?
Yeah, I mean, we're both, I think we're between like obviously this has been a really big focus for quite some time with both of us. And we do have like a few other ideas that we're kicking around, shorts and full length. I know Dan has written some really awesome scripts on his own lately that he's shared with me, and those have been really awesome. So yeah, I think we're kind of just like a little bit scattershot right now.
So are you guys gonna like make your own little production company house?
Yeah, hopefully one day that'll be great to do.
Just
And
thinking 20 years, you'll look back at an interview like this, or maybe even this one, and say, we had a good idea back then, and now we've got 40 people underneath us.
yeah, that'll be the goal, just to. And I think for my own personal goals, I never saw myself as, not saying that I could, but never saw myself as like making a Marvel like movie. Or no shame to those. They're fun. I know people poo
They're
poo.
mindless and they're great for entertainment, and
Yeah,
they keep you out of your head for a while.
exactly. So I just never saw doing big budget things like that. I always wanted to make those movies that people rewatch 100 times, and if you know it, you love it.
Yeah.
And recently, I went to this theater called Vidiots.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, it's so much fun. But they were screening Gremlins, and the director came out, and he was just like, "I don't know what the fuck like all of you guys are doing here, but thank you." Like the movie came out like 30 years ago, and he was talking about all of the decisions that went into making the film.
How to make a
Um,
mug talk. Yeah, things like that.
and that to me, that's for me, that's my dream of, even if it's cult classic films, those are films that people are gonna watch
Yeah.
forever, and find something new and appreciate. So I've
I,
always
I
wanted to.
still watch Freaks.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and like that's it for me, of making kind of lower tier films, high concept, big heart, but lower scale.
It's
And
so necessary. It's so, it's not even a subgenre of anything bigger. It's its own world. It's its own, way of thinking, and people need it. I think the indie vibe is so underrated for how amazing it is. And I mean, I spend a lot of time on Tubi and things like that, just watching a lot of indies and watching a lot of I think I've said Evil Sublet this year has been one of my favorite comedy horror films. I must have said it 40 or 50 times, and now 60 times. One for every year I've been alive. Just because the comedy and horror blend, I call it Cora, um, is it not only does it get you out of your head, but it makes you think a little harder than you probably would have thought if it was something like, I'm going to spoon feed you this on, this shark face that's coming here. So when you're watching a movie, do you sit there? This has been, people don't like to watch movies with me because I'm an animator who goes, somebody did that. Oh. Will you guys watch stuff? Do you guys like critique it as writers or as directors, or do you just like, I'm gonna freaking enjoy this thing no matter what?
It's hard not to, I feel. I don't know. I don't know how you feel, Dan. It's hard to take it, like to kind of back up out of that space.
yeah, I think for me, there's certain movies that I'll always give a pass of. I just had fun. It's controversial because bigger movies that are in the cultural zeitgeist right now are people's favorites of the year. Like Sinners is a big one that people loved this year. But the movie that I had the most fun with and had the best theater experience for was Final Destination.
Thank
You
you.
know, and I thought that movie was awesome, and watching that with a crowd of fellow horror fans who cheered when Tony Todd like came up on screen and everything.
I
That
still get sad we lost him.
Yeah, and it's like a black creative and horror, seeing him up there and giving his really
And
heartfelt
hit,
speech.
and that whole monologue in that movie was his own.
Yeah, that was
I
such a
love
great
that story. For
decision.
those who are unaware, Tony Todd found out he had cancer like 6 or 7 years ago. His daughters and he have been kind of keeping up with his helping him stay in film still, and he wanted to go out working. So he got invited to do this film, and it turns out to be his last one that he filmed. And the director said, "Look, here's your monologue. This is what's written down. You can say whatever you want, however you want." And they did. They let him say exactly what I want. So it's his goodbye to every single one of us and you and me who were just so amazed at his work over the years. And his loss was really hard on a lot of us.
Yeah, and that's so that just to say, like that's a movie I turned my brain off, and I was actually surprised by how strong the writing was, how strong the characters were, and just overall like how great of a vibe it is. But there's so many people that write it off of just gore porn or whatever, but they're missing out on a really great, very well made film. And I I sorry, I feel like your question then led to me just raving about Final Destination, but
Good. It's all right. It's all
I think
right.
like that movie taught me so much as a filmmaker, and that whole series of setups and payoffs of here's this great setup to this horrible death, but here like the payoff is always like, okay, that was like exciting. That was cool how they
Like you know it's coming, but do you
it's
know
coming.
how?
And we need more movies like that because there's so many movies today that have setups, no payoffs, or payoffs with no setups.
Do you,
So,
do you find yourself like this is one of the things that my husband cannot stand when we watch movies is that I've got the writing so figured out by the first 5 minutes. It's like, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. And by the end, you're going to see A, B, and C. No, that's not the way it's going to be. Trust me. All right. Sure enough, I'm always right. Except the last few years in indie films, there's been folks like you and folks like, Alan Piper and folks like, I mean, there's some incredible writers out there that are just, and directors out there that are popping out stuff that's not like, oh, so the cab driver didn't do it. Oh, so it's not the butler. Do you find yourself watching films that way too, or no?
yeah, yeah, for me or Autumn or
Either, either.
Both, yeah.
oh yeah, my fiance, she works in development, and
Congratulations.
yeah, so like, no, thank you. And so sometimes we have to really check ourselves because we're like, okay, let's just enjoy the movie because we'll figure out what the whole plot is, what the character arcs, what the theme is, and
Yeah.
then you'll think we're having like a story trust while the film's going on. I'm like, let's actually like listen and see if they're, doing some new ideas and things. So it's a switch I try to turn off best I
It's so
can.
hard.
So usually if weed's involved, it's off. It's like, oh, okay, well,
Totally understand. I live up in Portland, so I totally get it. Um, when you're sitting at the computer next time and you're looking at your script, now you're already writing new scripts, Dan.
Mm.
You're already doing. Plus, you're going to get married. Two crazy things to do at one time. Just pointing that out. Of course, I have a film and I just bought a house at the same time. Same thing. So, um, you're doing all these crazy things, and Autumn, you're doing all these crazy things. You see yourself like next year doing the film festival circuit because you got a new project coming out? Or do you see like yourself hunting down the cash to finish this project and make it bigger?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, funny enough, the past few weeks, um, and I'd love to hear Autumn too, because Autumn's actually writing a book, which is another thing to talk about. But for like the past few months, we've just been trying to do the whole thing of getting repped and shopping around scripts and stuff. And I don't think that I've felt more isolated and, like a lack of self and doing that. And to kind of go back to just making films and seeing what happens is for me what my heart is telling me
Mhm.
to do. So I'm hoping because the jump from my short before Did You Remember the Cat was 3 years. There was a 3-year gap between my last short, Don't Die First, and this one.
Mhm.
So I really want it to be a yearly basis of making films as fast as I can and that have really good scripts that go through the necessary bosses of friends and collaborators that give those hard notes. And
Yeah,
um,
it's hard to find people that are honest with you when you're trying to show a friend something. It's like, no,
yeah,
don't tell me it's good. Tell me where I can do better.
exactly. So for me, I think uh, I'm hoping to get another short out and then within a year from now. So
Excellent. And Autumn, you're writing a book.
Yeah, that's why I feel like my brain's been a little bit like unplugged with some of the film stuff. Is this month in particular, I've been trying to like do some deadline stuff. So that's been like
So
a
you've
bit of
already
my
got a book
focus.
agent, right? Because a book agent's a little different than a script agent.
It is, so I don't. However, yeah, it's a whole thing. Like once you look into it, it's a whole thing. But yeah, that's part of what the deadline's about. So it's yeah, but like so these past few weeks I've been really focused on that. However, once that is out of the way, hopefully like we can talk more about, doing another short or figuring out how to make this one a full-length feature like you were saying. Because I know me and Dan had a ton of fun working on this and we definitely, want to like try to collab in the future and get more fun horror stuff out there.
That's so cool. I'm so impressed by both of you. And I won't even ask you what the book's about because you're still doing deadlines and stuff. And I know what that's like. I had this whole thing with my agent. I got a book called Godless Grief out about 12 years ago.
Oh,
And
that's so cool. Congrats.
yeah, but atheist grief book, yay us.
Oh
Yay,
no.
sadness. But the whole funny thing was when I finally sold the book, we went through like three or four publishers. Everybody was great, but the contracts were kind of. We finally sold the book. The contract was great. Everything was wonderful. Then the editor of the publishing company said, "And we want to make it Catholic."
Oh. Yeah,
So
I'd be oh man, interested if they tried to do that with my book. That'd be wild.
so hopefully you don't have the same publisher. But my agent was awesome. This is why you need an agent, people, because my agent said, that's not the contract we signed. Give us the check.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And I got to publish it on my own, which was still like, oh my God. So I am so blown away. Also, the photography in your film, as somebody who's an animator and as a visual artist, I looked at, the way you guys kind of put the imagery up. There was a lot of stuff going on in the background that you couldn't quite see, which I love, and stuff going on in the foreground that was just right in your face, which I love. And then it was juxtaposed together, which I loved. So were you as a director, Dan,
yeah.
thinking as an editor, or were you helping the editing process out?
I think you
We
might be
go
on
blank.
mute. Sorry
Am
about that.
I out?
Yeah, lost you for a second.
Oh, I'm back. Here we go.
Oh,
Were you,
okay.
okay, were you thinking as an editor or as a my internet connection is unstable? Well, so am I. Um, we're almost wrapped up there, internet. Um, were you thinking as a director or were you thinking as an editor when you were putting the thing together?
Yeah, so this was the first project that I was able to build the film before we even started filming. So Autumn and me, we worked with uh some really incredible board artists and boarded out some like the entire film. And then because we work in animation, we worked with an awesome editor, Luke Palter, who built an entire animatic. So before we even hit record, I sent the animatic out and got notes from people on like, oh, like here's some scenes that you should rethink or restage. And it gave us fluidity on set to make adjustments, but we were also boarding it to the actual locations. So it was very easy for everyone to see what the vision was, especially in the finale when they're fighting the choir. We storyboarded all that because it included some stunts and stuff for the actors. So with that one, I was really thinking editing of how do we get there. For the conversation scenes, that we kind of just wanted it to focus on performance. So less coverage, more wides and close-ups to make it more intimate. But all of the scares and all of the really like horror sequences, specifically the sequence of when we first see the choir fully. That sequence required a lot of planning because it was my first time working with an effects team, an effects crew, and it just felt like if I fuck up one thing, it can't be the monster because of all the money we spent on the
Just
monster.
blame the effects crew. They
Working,
all do.
yeah, working with Patrick McGee, who's so incredible and really took a leap of faith on us of like he believed in this short. He like works on the VHS movies and so many incredible horror
Those two.
franchises. So like for him to go, yeah, I'll do this little short film like for you guys was like a huge, okay, yeah, we have to get even more serious. So but it's always what's gonna get the biggest reaction from the audience. And I remember on set. It was our third day of filming, and we had been filming pretty late, but it was our big choir sequence, and it's the first time that you see the choir fully, and it's in this doorway, and you like hear it roar, and you see like the car alarm like blaring in the background behind it, and it's my favorite shot of the film of the whole thing because it turned out exactly how I planned in my head.
You wanted the light to be like a heartbeat because that's what it felt like to me.
Exactly, and that was mimicked in the score as well, for it. And we had conceptualized it in a different way in the storyboards. Um, so it took a bit because we were trying to get it the way that it was in the storyboards, but it just wasn't, it was missing something. And when we finally decided, because with the location, we were filming in one room, but the door to that room would be the other door to an entirely different location. So there was like a lot of different tracking that we had to do to make sure that the whole house made sense because it was two houses combined
Wow.
to do in separate locations, hundreds of miles apart.
Oh no.
So the decision that I made was people are going to be so focused on the choir, they're not going to be focused on the continuity of
Right.
the door. And so when Mitch burst out of the door and we see the choir lit, it's a completely different door than the door that we saw for the hallway of him
I
going up.
wouldn't have even guessed. I would have
Yeah.
even.
But
Wow.
that was the goal. It was like, okay, we need to get this shot the perfect way. Screw continuity. Like in that moment, the one moment, screw continuity. Let's just focus on this piece because if someone walks out of it and says, that was a different door. We didn't do our job. So that was a good moment where I just had to look at the audience experience of
And
it.
they didn't care. They were just into
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
It's like you learned from your first film experience about continuity. You got that down. So you're fine.
Exactly. So
So great. All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna close out the show. Do you have anything you want to give the Portland audience as a reference for the future, or a goodbye or an adieu?
just wanted to say thank you all so much for checking out the film. Please leave a review on Letterbox and share the word if you really enjoyed it. We're hoping to play at many more festivals. So if this is your first time seeing it and you want to see it again, check it out again. And hopefully next time I'll be able to be in the audience with Autumn to hear your reactions. So just wanted to say thank you. How about you, Autumn?
Yeah, no, that's you took the words out of my mouth. Thank you so much for, I mean, firstly, thank you for having us on this show. This was such a cool experience. And also, thank you to the listener and to the people of Portland for it's so cool to hear that people have enjoyed this film as much as they have because so much love and friendship went into this film.
It's so cool, and you know what? It shows. It shows, and you. By the way, your actors phenomenal. You know?
They nailed it. They did awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh wait, no wait, I can't say that. I was one of them. Now I feel
oh
I was thinking of the two leads. The two leads were phenomenal.
no, all of the actors were, especially that one that. No. All right, everybody, this has been the Antisocial Horror-ish show. My guests will hold on for just a moment, and I would like to thank you for the bottom of my heart, Portland Horror Film Festival, for allowing us to bring you the filmmakers who made your festival so awesome. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time. Bye.